your host Sana Makbool with you at PTB World, and in today's show, of course, we will be taking a look at some very important stories. Both of them are going to focus what is going on at home within the country, and of course, when we take a look at that, unfortunately, there has been a lot of political instability and turmoil since the start of this year, and we owe a lot of that to what has been going on in terms of the Hakiki Azadi March, something that has been called by the PTI chairman. And we now, of course, after many such dates, see that there is going to be a sort of culmination on November 26th in Rawalpindi, in which the PTI chairman intends to also participate by joining via helicopter. The preparations for the protests have already begun, and there have been many instructions that have already been given to the PTI workers and leaders, along which we also understand include a lot of instructions with regards to the number of people that each PTI lawmaker has to bring in. So it's interesting, of course, to see when we talk about protests and long marches that the number of people, of course, are being carried in as well by allocating them to certain number of lawmakers. In addition to that, there have been many other statements that have come out, which also include something that the PTI chairman has accepted as a mistake. Again, not the first time that has been done with regards to land mafia that he has termed the real estate mafia that he has termed as the biggest mafia in the country, and said that it was his mistake to provide amnesty schemes, that in fact these are the people who grab government lands, they sell them to the general public, and then they transfer those proceeds out of the country. And so the issue, of course, with regards to this is the impact that that's going to have on the economic situation of the country, and he talks about how this was something he should not have done and perhaps would not be doing so if he returns to power. This, of course, is an interesting statement considering, of course, previous ones as well, in which he talked about various other things that should not have been done when he was part of the government. So we're going to take a closer look at the preparations that are being made in Rawalpindi. What does that mean with regards to the political situation, and also, of course, in terms of the businesses that are going to be affected, daily life that's going to be affected, and how that's going to have an impact on the economic situation. And then, of course, the statement on real estate as well, and what sort of actions or considerations, of course, need to be taken into account when we make such statements. Our second segment is going to focus on what is going on in KP, in which we see that there seems to be some sort of standoff between the bureaucracy and the government. Unfortunately, we see that a lot of the decisions that have been taken in by the cabinet, the provincial cabinet, are not being carried out or are being refused by the secretaries, and a lot of the major projects and summaries are rejected. A lot of this stemmed firstly from what happened with regards to the Secretary Transport, who also refused a decision of the government, which was approved by a bill in the Provincial Assembly as well, to make daily wages in the Transport Department permanent. And again, no removal took place. In the second such controversy, that was with regards to the Health Secretary and the Health Department, in which the KP Health Foundation needed to outsource MRI services in 8 hospitals, and this was a big investment of 8 billion rupees, in fact, in the country. And of course, such an important investment and contract was something that was done after a lot of review, after much scrutiny, and of course was also KPPRA compliant. And because of that, there is a lot of concern with regards to the impact it's going to have on the kind of parallels and comparisons that are being drawn, or what is being called the foundation or the basis of the objections to such projects as well. And then, of course, the decision that we see coming in from the cabinet or the provincial assemblies not being carried out is also something that was notified to the chief secretary time and again, but still no action has been taken. So we're going to take a closer look at what this means and how this needs to be tackled with, and especially when we try and understand what is going on within the KPK, how exactly do we also draw lessons for what needs to be done in terms of the bureaucratic setups and the government decisions. For this, of course, we're going to be taking a closer look at what is going on within the province and then try and understand how to rectify that. Of course, and we've also been joined for this discussion by our experts, and we've been joined by senior analyst Mr. Farooq Patafi. And for our first segment, with regards to the PTI chairman and his decision regarding the protest in Rawalpindi, we've been joined by the coordinator to Prime Minister on Commerce and Industry, Mr. Rana Ehsan Afzal Khan, and also the former president, RCCI, Mr. Shemail Dao. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for being a part of the debate and, of course, this particular discussion. Let me start with you, Rana Saab. Unfortunately, of course, we see that a lot of the times that when we take a look at what is coming in terms of the statements coming in from the PTI chairman himself, and then, of course, other leaders too, there's a lot of concern in terms of how it's going to impact the public and, of course, more importantly, the economic situation of the country as well. But let me first start with the preparations that are being made with regards to November 26th. Finally, of course, we see that perhaps a culmination date has been given. The PTI chairman himself says he's going to participate. But what concerns me is the kind of instructions that are being given out in terms of how this is going to happen. First, we don't have any clarity whether there's going to be a sit or not, something that Imran Khan has said will be decided at the venue. And then, of course, when we take a look at how the PTI lawmakers have been instructed with a certain number of people coming in, I want to understand, is this not something that the public is part of or is expressing their outrage with, apparently, as what Khan Sahab has been talking about in terms of freedom or the Hakiki Azadi March, and is not just a sort of a rally or a number game, considering that certain numbers are allocated to lawmakers to bring in? Is it just about that at the end of the day? Shouldn't the public be coming out themselves?
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Thank you for taking my perspective. Well, up till now, the claims made by Imran Khan and PTI regarding the long march and what we've seen in reality are two different things. The long march was hardly a 200-meter to a 1-kilometer long march within a country which is almost 1,500 kilometers long and 600 kilometers wide. So saying that there's going to be an inqilab or a revolution, that is far-fetched. So about the 26th, I think it's going to be the same thing. It's going to be a one-day show. I assume there's going to be a big crowd because they have people coming in from KPK, they have people coming in from Punjab, Gilgit-Baltistan, Kashmir. But there are four factors which are not working towards him for a sit-in. Number one, that is that Tahir Qadri is missing. Number two, the media is not one way as it was before that. They weren't showing the empty chairs and they would show the stage. Number three, investors, the ATMs have gone away from PTI. And number three, the empire is no longer there to make things, to manage things behind doors. So what we'll see on the 26th is a one-day show. After that, what we're assuming is that they're going to disperse. The government has prepared, it is prepared for a big crowd, but we will not allow the crowd to enter into the red zone of Islamabad. We're capable and prepared to stop people in coming into the red zone in Islamabad capital territory. So that those are the preparations. We're hoping that it's going to be peaceful. We're hoping that we will not lose any lives or no injuries will be seen. So let them have their go at it, and we will handle.
All right, absolutely, I understand, but I just want to also further talk about the issue, of course, with regards to the sit-in. You say, of course, that this is what you have in mind as to what is going to happen, but there may or may not be a sit-in. Of course, there's no clarity as to that. And then when we talk about a one-day event, what exactly is that even going to achieve if we don't have a sit-in in place, or we don't really have any negotiations going on, or if there's no real objective fulfilled? Is this just a power show at the end of the day? Are you truly prepared for any other sort of a situation that can actually happen? Or are you 100% sure that this is what it is and so you're prepared for that?
What has the Long March achieved? Has it achieved anything positive? Has it, given a positive impact to the economy of Pakistan? No. Has it positively impacted the lives of citizens where the Long March was passing through? No. It has given nothing except for more propaganda and political instability. What is it going to give on the 26th? Nothing. It's going to give you exactly nothing. And but I am hoping that this will be the climax. And even if the sit-in is, if they try for a sit-in and if they stretch it out, we will be prepared to confront that And it is our duty to make sure that the citizens' lives are not disturbed and they're not, their daily activity isn't altered because of this sit-in or that 26th show. So I think it's going to
Right,
achieve
and I
nothing at
understand
all.
that, and I'm glad you said that because I want to talk. Right, I want to talk a little bit more about that as well because when we talk about the protection of people's lives, of course, it also means not just their own lives that they're living in terms of their security, but also in terms of the kind of safety that is provided in an environment where they can flourish and grow. And unfortunately, a lot of that does sort of have an impact no matter how much you try and protect them. And so, Mr. Shamail, considering, of course, that this is something that perhaps we've seen in the past as well in terms of political instabilities or long marches or dharnas. Again, we are at a situation, at a point in which, of course, the economic conditions are a serious issue, and we're having to make some very tough decisions, and we're really making sure that we move towards the right direction. At this moment in time, the political instability is already not helping, and so when we have this sort of a situation in Rawalpindi, there is, of course, a lot of direct impact that is going to have on the people there, on the businesses there, and so much is going to get affected. How do you see this particular dharna in terms of what the public wants, in terms of the kind of life that they want to live, in terms of what the common man expects from the political leadership? And then, if that's not something that can be guaranteed or assured, if there's so much that is at stake here, who's going to be accountable for any sort of damages that anybody is incurring?
Thank you so much for having me. Well, actually, this is the whole march and the whole disruption that it causes is negating the very same element which the previous Prime Minister raised during COVID, that we do not want to go for shutting down the economy because the common man will not be able to do day-to-day living. So this obviously has been the case, and we have seen resentment because I am affiliated with the business community, and I hear very commonly this sentiment coming across, and very strong because at this situation, the whole economy is suffering. We see there is shortness of consumables, raw materials, imports are being disrupted. There is an escalation. There is a obviously the buyers are not there because of the inflation, so forth and so on. So already people are suffering who have to do with who are traders, who are working with the supply chains, and so forth and so on. So obviously this is going to further enhance their misery, and it will definitely disrupt those people who work on a daily basis on daily wages. So I don't see really anything, and I agree with the earlier discussion from Ehsan Saab that it's not going to really, there's nothing coming, there's nothing new. So the challenges are the same, which were a few years back, and they're not going to be fixed by people coming on the roads, disruption, destruction. The only way we can really achieve something is try to look at solutions, try to find ways within our resources how we can solve these issues and how we can create jobs, how we can move forward. So I really don't know how this is going to serve the community or the country's interest.
Shimal Sab, Dr. Sab, since we are talking about how it can negatively affect the economy, could you also reflect on how it is going to impact Lahore, Rawalpindi particularly? Because when we look at it, your own understanding matters. You have been the president of RCCI, and Rawalpindi Chamber of Commerce and Industry must have some opinion on how it can actually jam or paralyze a city.
Well, exactly, Farooq Saab. The issue is that compared to other cities such as Lahore and so forth and so on, the way the structure is that if the sit-in or the march is going to be taking place in a main tributary, which kind of connects not only the city but the twin city and the major trading hubs which are located in the internal parts of the city. And a lot of people actually travel in this area from the surrounding 50 or 100 kilometers for their day-to-day provisions. So it is not only the traders here, but it is also the traders, the wholesale markets that are derived from this market. And so we already are hearing and feeling a lot of our traders, our colleagues from trader communities and associations have been showing and even going to the media and sharing their negative sentiments about how this is disrupting, because already people are kind of at the you can say at the brim of their you can say situation because of the negative economic obviously the raw materials, traders, etc. And there's a huge shortage of many things in many provisions. So this is definitely going to add to that. And then the overall situation, I don't see that really helping with Pindi being a sensitive area at the same time.
Right.
Absolutely, and of course, these are very important concerns. Of course, Farooq, I was earlier wanting to ask a question with regards to what the PTI chairman has said. The statement with regards to, of course, the real estate and talking about how it was a mistake to provide amnesty schemes. We'll come to the fact about the real estate as well, but I want to understand that this is perhaps not the first time that such statements have been made by the PTI chairman, including also, of course, the kind of statements that he's made of his tenure, that there was no real power, or the fact that he didn't know much, and that the fact that he was in power with other parties constrained him to make a lot of important decisions. And then, of course, such statements as what is being said now, that a scheme or some sort of a decision that came in was a mistake. I understand the importance of having an honest evaluation of what has happened and of what you have achieved. But it seems that this, of course, is not something to be taken lightly when you are holding a very important office. There are a large number of people, the entire country, that's getting impacted. And so is this something that can be taken as easily as a trial and run error of making mistakes, or considering the fact that you are continuing with something where you claim that you don't really have enough power as well? And so when we take a look at the kind of statements that are being made with regards to freedom, or with regards to a country that needs new polls and a new leadership, it doesn't seem much in terms of what can actually be achieved.
Right, Sana, I think that Imran Khan Sahab, through these statements, actually keeps on, reminding everybody that he is just another politician. Because before taking power at the federation, he had promised that he will not become become part of a government or form a government until he has real power. And yet, we see that he is now reflecting on how little power he had. So why is it that politicians always have these reflections once they are out of power, right? And usually it has been happening in the past as well. This time also it is happening. Imran Khan Sahab, by saying this, only it tells you that if he is in power, everything is hunky-dory. If he is out of power, then he will keep on saying that he did not have any power. That is another way of abdicating responsibility, because we know that there are projects and there are, very big billionaires and very big businessmen in whose, aeroplanes he has been traveling. And we know that he has been ceding power to the land mafia as well. So these reflections only compromise the integrity of the person who is actually saying that, right? But here's the thing. We started by discussing this long march or this sit-in. Why is it that it is happening on 26th? Why is it that he has called everybody to descend on Rawalpindi rather than reaching Islamabad? Could have been very easily Islamabad if his target was that. Everybody is saying that his purpose, and because the media what it is, and the kind of statements he has made regarding the appointment of next army chief, it is to actually pressurize the army itself. And because of that, I would say one thing. Imran Khan Sahab repeatedly says that U-turns are good. And I'm not an ill-wisher of his party, but I've been repeatedly reminding that you are, heading towards a dead end, and this is a wrong road to take. And I think this is going to be the end of the road, and the kind of road that actually ends careers. Because nobody wants more chaos in this country. We are talking about stagflation. We are talking about economic crisis all over the world, and that is going to impact Pakistan as well. In that kind of a situation, this sit-in could have waited for a week or two after the transition has taken place. Now everybody is going to think that there is a president, he is going to try to stop the nomination process of the next army chief, and then Imran Khan Sahib is going to prolong his sit-in. I wish what Rana Sahib was saying was true, that it was going to be a one-day affair. Had it been that, it would have been nothing more than a face saving. But I don't think that is the indication we are getting. They're calling millions of people to Islamabad and Rawalpindi, and there it can only create more chaos.
Right, absolutely. And it's important that you raise that, because Rana Sahib, I want to understand, as a strategy, what sort of an action plan does the government have in mind if things don't go their way? And I understand that you're not concerned about it perhaps having the sort of impact that Khan Sahib wanted. And of course, in terms of purpose or clarity, we are not really sure what exactly is going on. But as Farooq is pointing out, there are a lot of things that point towards something that, of course, outrightly has been denied, but seems to be a motive behind this. And so when we take a look at that particular appointment and the timing of this protest, what sort of preparations are in place to make sure that nothing is impacting those decisions? The government, of course, has made statements very clear on these and other issues and other demands made by the PTI leadership. However, we also feel that there are negotiations or backdoor channels that are also being utilized. Can there be any possibility of any sort of negotiation? And if so, what sort of areas does the government think that they can actually talk on?
So, before I answer that, let me just quickly comment on the property, the real estate comment that Imran Khan made. It's mind-boggling that when he's pitching something, for example, the 35 punctures, he pitches as if there's no bigger truth than what he's saying. But then, later, a few months and years down the line, he's like, that was a political statement. Similar with the international conspiracy. The whole country was fed and lectured on the international conspiracy, and then he goes casually on in an interview and he says, I don't blame the US for the international conspiracy. So this has been happening with Imran Khan, and there's several dozens of moments when he's done that. So that speaks a lot about his integrity in the U-turns politically that he takes. Coming to your question, you see, they've said that they don't want to talk to us. They've said that they would rather speak with the establishment regarding the early elections, and we might have been given some feedback on that, but we've outright rejected it, and we're not interested in any thing coming from anything coming apart from the political arena. And what we're saying is that you come back to the parliament, and then if you're back in the parliament, then we can discuss early elections. We might even accept that. But the fact that you bring people on the roads and then you expect that the government is going to bow down and accept your demands, that is not happening. That is not going to happen. You're not going to get early elections via that. You want early elections? Fine, we're ready to give you early elections, but come in the parliament, come sit down, and then we can talk. We can talk about, fixing the election rules as well. We can do that jointly. But these pressure tactics, for example, if we do bow down and we accept that we're going to have early elections because of your political pressure or the street power that you've shown, what is going to stop that the new government, when it comes into power?
Right, Rana Sahib, has there been any efforts made in the recent past to get the PTI into the parliament?
And by the way, Rana Saab, Sana, with your permission, let me also ask a question. Rana Saab, you're talking about doing whatever it takes to secure Islamabad. But if they are going to create chaos in Pindi, Pindi is not within the jurisdiction of federal government. So what exactly happens there? How are you going to secure Pindi as well, because you are the federal government?
Well, we've seen that episode happen in Punjab in different cities where a dozen people came in and they blocked a junction, the road junction, by burning tires. And we saw that citizens had to go through a very rough patch. We saw a few dozen people closing down the motorway. But then, the courts are open. The bureaucracy of Punjab will be put into question. We can ask them, the federal government even before sent letters to the bureaucracy asking them and reminding them of their duty, that is to protect the lives of the citizen and their daily routines, their right to movement. So obviously, if that happens, then we will see at that point in time how to deal with it. But yes, I mean, they're answerable. The Punjab bureaucracy, the Punjab government is answerable to the citizens of Pakistan. They're answerable to the courts of Pakistan and the high courts. So if that happens, then action can be taken accordingly at that point in time.
And regarding contacting the
Right, absolutely. And Rana Sahab, with regards to the parliament, yes.
bringing the opposition back to the parliament.
That is our point of view on this whole issue. Our leadership has also said it openly that they should come to the parliament, and if they do, we can have early elections. We can sit together.
No, but my question is with regards to any efforts from your side to actually achieve that happening.
Well, we have been announcing it. Announcing that is good enough. But the fact is, when some party leader says that they're, not willing to talk to their political stakeholders, but they would rather talk to terrorists or, separatists, that speaks volumes of what Imran Khan's agenda is.
All right, I understand that. Let me go quickly to Mr. Shamal Daud as well with regards to what you said earlier in terms of the kind of credibility or impact that this is going to have on the public, and of course the way that these statements are then going to be viewed. Mr. Shamal, considering of course that we understand that the popularity of course is there, there are numerous followers, and there may be a large number of people who will actually come to the protest out of their own accord as well. But I want to understand the sentiment of the business community as well, both with regards to what it was like when the PTI was in power and now, because I understand that a lot of the decisions that the government has had to take is because of the tough conditions that we are in. And of course, when we talk about narratives or the way that this is being politicized, the PTI leadership, of course, talks about how this is because of the fact that this is not a government who's perhaps true in terms of their values or in terms of what they want to do for the country and are in it just for corruption. These are, of course, the kind of allegations that have many times in the past been put forward by the PTI chairman and other leaders. And so the public, who's of course the follower of PTI, believes that. And there's of course a lot of speculation with regards to the country defaulting as well. So a lot of what is not to be blamed to the government is in fact something that is maybe believed by the people. But I want to understand, is the same sentiment across the business community, both now and in the past as well? What do they make of the kind of politics that are being carried out by the PTI?
Well, by and large, I can resonate because when we interact amongst ourselves in these associations and the chambers, what we hear is that typically people don't want to really get bogged down with the political differences and this rivalry. Businessmen just want to do their business and they want to lead their activities. And for them, whoever is at the helm of affairs, it just basically means that they should be able to perform their work, do their trade, do their imports, do their business. And so there's definitely a negative sentiment. Now, obviously, the blame culture and all of this has been going around. So if we understand that the main drive for this sit-in would be, or the march is, that we want an early election, we have not seen, or I have at least not seen, any discussion on what the plan is. when supposedly if the new elections take place and the new government comes in place, and let's say if this government, PTI, does become the most popular one, what is their plan? I mean, so the public needs to ask this question amongst themselves. And so this is the sort of thing that is also under discussion, where the business leadership keeps on saying that we should make sure that anything to do with business and economic revival and economy of Pakistan should be are not political. Red lines should be drawn around it. We have talked about, I know the Prime Minister have talked about it. My chamber, and I have been part of that delegation that actually went and reached out to the previous Prime Minister, and we tried to push him to sign the Charter of Economy. And he did agree at that stage. However, then that got lost in this rivalry. So I think it is about time where other institutions have decided that there should be red lines and there should not be name calling and so forth and so on and mudslinging. I think it's about time that we should also draw lines around the economy. And that is the major sentiment that you will hear across from the businesses and business leadership around the country.
Right, right,
Right, Sana, I
right.
wanted
That
to
makes
also
sense.
actually chip
Farooq,
in.
when we take a look, yes,
Yeah,
go
yeah,
ahead.
please go ahead.
I was just
Ask
coming
the
to you.
question. Please go ahead.
You can add to that what you want to, of course, but I'd like to also take your opinion with regards to what the public should be keeping an eye out for in terms of course, the way that we are going to take in all the information with regards to the politics and what is going on in the country. There is, of course, much of concern, and in order to really understand and make opinions that are helpful and keep our leaders accountable in the days to come and what all can transpire, what should the public be mindful of?
Right, Sana, I think while thinking to answer this question brings bad taste to my mouth, because in the past many days we have seen the cavalier the attitude of the media as well regarding the appointment of army chief and whatever is going on in the country. And after that kind of an unhinged reaction coming from the media and the kind of speculations that went on, I wanted to actually, impress upon 2 or 3 very important points. I think the people should keep their eyes and ears open. They should their minds open as well. But regarding what is happening right now, since this government came, I repeatedly kept on reminding everybody that being an apolitical man, I will try to be, as neutral as possible. But what Imran Khan Sahab right now is trying to do is not actually political. It is actually going after the nation's institutions, and those institutions that have done nothing but sacrifice. Today there was, an event in Rawalpindi where Army Chief also spoke, and you can see the kind of, sacrifices that have been given even in this year, in this country. So instead of actually trying to destabilize the system, Imran Khan Sahab should have been grateful that these institutions actually supported him beyond any limit, honestly. And this was happening. And right now, this speculation that has started in the media regarding President perhaps stopping the summary, I can tell you one thing for sure. Imran Khan Sahab recently wrote a letter regarding armed forces of Pakistan to the President of Pakistan, asking him to take certain action, and he did not. So I think that the President is not a part of any political party. He's he's the head of the country, so he is going to take that responsibility seriously and will withstand the pressure from his party as well. But regarding what is happening right now, the institution knows how to actually protect itself, and nobody can divide it.
Absolutely. And of course, Farooq, the kind of responsibility that you talked about, we hope not just from the president, but all of our political leaders as well. Thank you very much, Rana Ihsan Afzal Khan, for joining us, and of course, Mr. Shamal Daud for joining us as well. We're going to take a short break and move on to our next segment. Hello and welcome back to the debate. We're now going to be talking about a very important story, and that is with reference to what is going on in KP province. The KPK, of course, is unfortunately undergoing a sort of standoff between the bureaucracy and the government over government affairs. A lot of the decisions that have been taken in the provincial assembly and by the cabinet have been refused by the secretaries, particularly Secretary Transport and Health, and this, of course, has been the cause of much controversy with regards to what is going on, with regards to how it's going to impact the economic situation, and then, of course, essentially, why is that even happening at this point? Farooq, if we try to take a look at what has happened in the past, especially with reference to the decisions by the Secretary Transport and the Secretary Health regarding various decisions by the government, we can, of course, closely try to analyze what exactly happened with regards to those particular decisions. But I want to first of all understand as to why this refusal is even taking place. If there is a decision coming in from the government ministers or a bill that has been approved in the provincial assembly, what sort of hindrance does even exist for this to not be implemented? And if something is not implemented, shouldn't there be a consequence for it? Apparently, the chief secretary is notified, but there's no action taken. There was, of course, some sort of consensus over the removal, particularly of the Secretary Transport. That didn't happen. So essentially, why is the bureaucratic setup doing this and why now? And then if this is happening, why is there no consequence?
Right, Sana, the answer to your question is twofold. There are two aspects to it. One is systemic, and the second one is regarding the attitude of the political government as well. Regarding the systemic issues that are there, we know that PTI has had difficulty even at the center in carrying the country's bureaucracy along. And in Punjab especially, where they had their previous chief minister, there too they had huge difficulty. Every day they had to change up, IG police, and they had to also change the secretary. That would be because you are perhaps not actually taking into the bureaucracy into confidence, or then you are actually doing stuff that might be demoralizing. But in any hour of crisis, it also happens that people actually stop taking risks. Whenever a political government asks them to go for something that is an outreach, that is beyond the pale of reasonable capacity of the institution to do, then they actually go slow, they slow down. And this seems to be happening at this moment when the country is struggling with an economic crisis, asking the departments to carry forward and implement certain financial commitments and to actually expand the liabilities seems a difficult thing, right? You wanted to say something, Sana? No, I thought that you...
I want to quickly also introduce our guest who has joined us. Yes, I'll come back for you to finish your thought, but I want to quickly also welcome in the debate Mr. Arshad Aziz Malik, who's a journalist who's covered this very particular story. And thank you very much for joining us in the discussion. And I've just asked Farooq with regards to, of course, this very important standoff that has existed. And I'll come to you exactly for more details as well. But Farooq, first complete your thought and then I'll go to Mr. Arshad.
Yeah, second thing, as I was just pointing out, is the situation in the country. When you have polarized government, when you have a government that is being very aggressive, this sort of things happen as well. I'm sure that if the bureaucracy also is given a voice in the matter, these things can be resolved very quickly. Over to you, Sana.
Right. Mr. Arshad, first of all, if you could also help us understand, because of course you've covered the story and you perhaps understand more details as to what really is going on, what the nuances are. I asked Farooq earlier also why this is happening and why now, and why is there no sort of consequence in terms of the decisions by the government not being implemented. You can add to that as well, but I'd also like to ask, since we're short on time, and I'll just put in a lot of questions to you for now. So bear with me. When we take a look at this entire structure, of course, with regards to the bureaucratic setup and the government ministers and the provincial assemblies in place, Should this not be a mechanism which, in fact, exists to facilitate the entire process for projects, for implementation of decisions, for summaries, for the public, and not as a cause of an obstacle or hindrance? And if yes, then what can be done to change what is going on right now and to not have similar incidents elsewhere as well?
Thank you very much. Let me brief the audience regarding my story today published. The first issue is that there are two examples. One was that the Secretary Transport, who has moved a summary regarding the regularization of the employees, which was approved by the cabinet, and then the act was approved from the provincial assembly. When it comes to the implementation process, he refused to sign it. So that is clear violation of that. I think that was not right. But they have their own reasons. When they are writing on the files, they have invalid reasons. I think so. When you spoke to them, they have their own other valid things. Like I spoke to one of the bureaucrats, he said that, as you know, that the government they have only a few months and they are going. So after that, we have to face the consequences of the accountability. So they are basically reluctant to sign in this stage, that they know that after the PTI government, they have to face the accountability processes. So, but let me give you another example, that the PTI government has decided that they will outsource the MRI facility in the province in the 8 districts, and they have invited different applications. The process was completed with the tendering process, which includes the technical evaluation and the financial evaluation. After that, when this project come for implementation and the tender was completed, the Secretary Health, he refused to sign that agreement. So that is the actual issue. I mean,
Right. Malik Saab,
Right, and I want to talk a little bit more about that because
right. Sana,
yes,
allow me to
Farouk, and
just,
you can add to
ask
that
a
question, but I'll just quickly put a technicality with regards to what he has just expressed, especially with the second aspect with the Health Foundation. There seems to be some sort of parallels that are being drawn, which are not a correct comparison as to what is going on. But I want to understand if you have any knowledge of whether or not this is something that has been misunderstood by the Secretary, or is something that is being done just to delay the process, as you were saying, is one of their concerns. Yes, Farouk.
And Malik Saab, very quickly, could you also clarify one discrepancy you actually pointed to? You said that when they comment on the files, they write something else, and when they speak to you or others, they give another explanation. Could you give an example regarding this transportation issue? What excuse was given on the file?
Actually, the act was approved by the provincial assembly. It says that the employees will be regularized as public servants.
Yeah.
So he has the objection that it should be the government servants, not the public servants. So that is the issue. That is something technical issue. He has that objection that it should be written in the act that the employees will be the government servants under this act. So it was written. Yeah, he has objection on the language. So that is not something very serious issue.
Okay. Sana, over to you.
Right, and Arshad Saab, with regards to the question that I asked regarding, of course, these decisions, as you were pointing out, of course, that it's perhaps a non-issue that is being used over here. Is it that apparent also in terms of the case of the outsourcing of MRIs? Because that seems to be also some sort of an issue which doesn't necessarily make sense in terms of the comparison, or is it really a misunderstanding? Do you have any knowledge of that?
When I have seen the documents, it says that the health department has made an illogical comparison between 1.5 Tesla MRI machines, which is a modern machines, with the 0.4 Tesla machines. They have made a comparison between the two machines of MRI machines. One is they have now are going to purchase 1.5 Tesla MRI machines, but they have made a comparison with the 0.03 and 0.04 machines. So it was illogical comparison. When you are giving a comparison with the two different machines, you have different rates of that, the MRI tests. So it has
Sure.
created a confusion between that.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Arshad Aziz, for joining us and, of course, for covering this very important story as well, and bringing into light what needs to be done and how this impacts very important decisions and projects. Thank you very much, Farooq, for also being part of the debate as always. This is all that we have for now. We'll be coming back tomorrow with more news. Stay tuned.